Well, never mind all that stuff, because COVID also taught Sunny Hostin how to get her groceries delivered. Yeah, I know, amazing. But that means it's time for...
Living your life and you're feeling low. You don't know what is true. You don't know what's true. So you quick flip through the channels to watch Sunny on The View. Oh my God, the stuff she says is dumb. Where the hell they get this woman from? She's a host who's always crass and lame, with lots of nonsense to proclaim.
Sunny Hostin had a full-blown on-air meltdown. And no, Mercury in retrograde wasn't to blame. Greg Gutfeld hit her with a brutal call-out, and it was like watching her completely glitch in real time. The hypocrisy was glaring, the drama intense, and her emotional spiral immediate. She grasped for a response, but her comebacks landed harder on cringe than clarity. The tension was thick, and the back and forth quickly devolved into chaos. What was meant to be a serious discussion turned into a televised train wreck, with Sunny unraveling under pressure. Unexpected, unscripted, and wildly dramatic. TV gold at its messiest.
Fun of The View a lot, but that's only because they keep talking. Those hens are always clucking. They get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, and then I get to say stupid stuff for an hour every day, except on purpose. But every now and then, one of those dingbats inadvertently says something that reveals modern liberal thought so perfectly it deserves further study. You know, like a weird serpent that washed up on the beach and you want to poke it with a stick.
This showdown was the TV clash everyone saw coming, even if no one wanted to say it out loud. Longtime viewers of The View could spot the tension building weeks ago. Sunny Hostin didn't just lose her cool, she completely unraveled. And not in a subtle way. We're talking high-def, dramatic, full-volume meltdown. Greg Gutfeld dropped a verbal bomb that shook the entire set, pushing Sunny past her limit. But the real shocker? What she said after the cameras stopped rolling. It left jaws on the floor. Gutfeld owned the moment, chaos MVP without question. Daytime TV will never recover.
So, Sunny, I bet you haven't been in a supermarket since COVID for about 3 years.
I haven't been in a supermarket since COVID. For about 3 years. That's when I discovered Instacart, and I give them a big tip because they don't always pay their people well, and it's so that's been an issue, I think, for the company. But man, you can get toiletries, you can get fire logs. You know those big bounty towels you don't want to carry.
Those from Costco.
Somebody else goes.
Fire logs? She had to tell the audience that she tips big because even she knows she sounds insufferable. Hey, I'm an but at least I tip.
In just 2 minutes, Greg Gutfeld burned through more hypocrisy than The View has quietly ignored for years. It was chaotic, bold, and completely unforgettable. The episode started like any typical Tuesday: loud opinions, mutual backpats, and grand declarations about saving democracy, one misinformed take at a time. But then Gutfeld showed up, sharp as ever, and flipped the whole tone on its head. His takedown was surgical, and the mood in the studio shifted fast, from confident chatter to stunned silence. It was part reality check, part roast session, and pure TV gold. No one saw it coming like this.
Hostin's obsession with race gets thrown back in her face. Today's video comes to us from Sunny Hostin. Sounds like a town. We're in Sunny Hostin. She was on PBS's Finding Your Roots, a show dedicated to researching celebrity ancestry. For context, Sunny is a staunch supporter of reparations and has made a fortune spewing nonsense about white privilege and racial justice. Well, turns out she's not as oppressed as she claims she is. She's actually the descendant of slave owners from Europe. Here's how she took the news.
Sunny Hostin approaches legal commentary like a kid playing Guitar Hero on expert mode. Lots of flair, not much accuracy. Always front and center, she delivers her so-called insights, which usually translate to, she's never wrong, facts are flexible, and yelling louder makes her version of reality stick. Never watched The View? Picture a chaotic Facebook comment thread about politics, only with people who once skimmed a Wikipedia article on the Constitution and now think they're ready for the Supreme Court. Sunny fits right in, branding herself the voice of reason, If reason means calling dissent a democracy-ending crisis. Coffee cup in United States.
Wow. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, you know, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living, on the backs of others.
Fact of life. Interesting change of tune. For more, we go to our chief Sunny Hostin correspondent for a reaction.
Then karma showed up swinging like a wrecking ball, and its name was Greg Gutfeld. He's not the polished, scripted type. He's the guy who says what everyone else tiptoes around. And Sunny? She wasn't remotely prepared. The moment Greg started listing her greatest hits of contradictions, she crumbled like a dollar store lawn chair in a hurricane. Let's be honest, Sunny's mastered the art of demanding civil discourse while branding half the country as democracy-hating villains. In her world, disagreement equals complicity and evil. It was courtroom meltdown meets middle school drama, pure chaos in designer heels, theater scale shoes.
Oh, I'm gonna milk this till the end of time. You're right, anytime she says something stupid, I'm gonna go, slave owner! Kat, I just watched that. That's the second time I've watched that. She was tipped off beforehand, right? Because they had to tell her before, so she had time to regroup. They wouldn't just surprise. Really? You think? No?
I don't know. I feel like she could have maybe done better. Okay, here's the thing.
But Greg wasn't finished. Not even close. He went full forensic, digging up receipts like he was conducting a full audit of Sunny Hostin's public contradictions. One moment, she's teary-eyed over border policies. The next, when her political favorites do the exact same thing, it's suddenly complex policy the rest of us are too naive to grasp. Greg aired it all out like dirty laundry in a hurricane. Sunny's outrage is lightning fast when a conservative so much as sneezes, but goes silent when a liberal bulldozes constitutional norms. She'll call for congressional hearings over a misspelled tweet, yet back politicians whose relationship with ethics is purely theoretical. Her standards shift with the political winds. Always loud, always righteous, but rarely consistent. It wasn't just a takedown, it was a spotlight on the selective outrage machine she's built. And Greg? He ran the demolition crew with precision, explosion.
I think that women, white women in particular, want to protect the patriarchy here because it's to their benefit. Yeah. They want to make sure that their husbands do well. They want to make sure that their sons do well. They want to make sure that their children do well. And they want to make sure that they do well. Most of the women in some of these studies are married white women, and they do fall in line with what their husbands are doing.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there.
Here's the best part. The audience at The View reacted exactly how you'd expect. Greg Gutfeld could have handed out a framed collage of Sunny Hostin's contradictions, and they'd still boo him for spreading hate. Right on cue, Sunny went for the oldest trick in the media playbook. Flip the narrative and play the victim. With a quivering voice and well-timed tears, clearly honed through expert-level media coaching, she spun Greg's factual takedown into an attack on women, minorities, and probably rescue puppies too. Unable to win on logic, she shifted the fight to feelings. Classic Sunny, new drama, same tired playbook, Crown Television.
Joy Behar gets racism after all. She's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang out. Maybe Joy needs a full day to read her hate mail, and that's just from the rest of the cast. So Scott had to deal with Sunny Hostin and her typical self-righteousness.
The moment someone dared to call out Sunny Hostin for flip-flopping, harder than a motivational speaker with commitment issues, boom, instant tears. It was emotional gymnastics that would win gold, if only self-awareness counted. As expected, the View crew jumped to her defense like cowboys circling the wagons, not from outlaws, but from the dangerous threat of actual fact-checking. That's all it took for the meltdown to hit full throttle. Even Whoopi chimed in with a pep talk that boiled down to, facts are subjective. If it feels true, it is. You really couldn't script this level of TV absurdity.
Like this chick, we didn't think it was the best thing that could have happened to us. Although it did get Joy Behar to wear a mask. You make me sick. It's funny, her being named Joy is like me being named ugly.
Behind the scenes, producers were reportedly scrambling like it was DEFCON 1, frantically trying to manage Sunny Hostin's meltdown, because apparently being held accountable is a national emergency now. You'd think she'd be used to public heat by now, but this time was different. Greg Gutfeld called out the contradictions, and suddenly the emperor had no clothes, just tears and a $30 latte. Social media lit up instantly, like Times Square on New Year's Eve. Twitter was flooded with memes, strong opinions, weak spine, and when the receipts hit too hard. Even people who don't follow politics couldn't look away.
Did you watch the whole thing or just the parts that I sent you?
I watched it. Obviously, just the parts that you said. Did I watch a whole episode of The View?
No woman can do that unless you're stupid. But
I have a job.
Here's the thing. How can they call themselves progressives when they keep saying that nothing has progressed? Then it's on them.
Right. I just wish I could have, would have watched if I could, would have been Joy Behar watching that.
Yes.
And being like, I totally made the right call. It was not an accident that they had him there on her day off.
Yes.
When she was, presented herself as the, expert on systemic racism.
Turns out when you spend years preaching civility while roasting half the country like a backyard BBQ, people notice when the mask finally slips. Viewers have long memories, longer than any TikTok trend, and Sunny's meltdown didn't go unnoticed. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld's takedown went viral. His razor-sharp, sarcastic recap struck a chord with everyone tired of being gaslit by the same old cable news spin. It was a masterclass in revealing The View for what it really is. Not a discussion, but a live-action Tumblr thread with applause and flattering lighting. Try voicing a different opinion? Cue the booze. Announcement.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist. You see?
Suddenly, it wasn't about Sunny's hypocrisy anymore. It became a crusade to shield women from any public criticism. Apparently, calling out contradictions is now a hate crime. The View isn't a debate show. It's a safe space for fragile ideas that crumble under basic logic. Sunny and her co-hosts run a daily self-esteem workshop, not a political discussion. When receipts get pulled, their arguments disintegrate like wet tissue paper. Sunny's meltdown wasn't a fluke. It was bound to happen. Greg Gutfeld's truth bombs exposed her hypocrisy, and she quickly rebranded it as a growth moment.
More time to talk. And I thought Will Smith wouldn't let a black man finish. If her IQ was half as high as her smugness, she'd be Einstein. And later it got weird after Whoopi Goldberg asked a question and Sunny chimed in again.
Honestly, watching The View turn a full-blown exposure of hypocrisy into a feel-good lesson on healing was almost impressive. They could have pitched it as the plot for a new Marvel movie, The Gaslight Avengers. The entire episode felt like a masterclass in deflecting accountability, with Sunny Hostin at the center of it all. Instead of owning up to her contradictions, she spun the meltdown into a personal growth story. It was like watching a political talk show dissolve into a self-help seminar, complete with hugs and a moral reawakening. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld kept stacking wins. No shouting, no emotional spirals, just that smug smirk that drives the perpetually offended into a frenzy. He knows the game. The second you point out that the emperor has no clothes, they'll accuse you of body shaming. Poor Sunny, she's stuck in an endless loop of contradictions with no way out. Every time she tries to climb back onto her moral high horse, someone's there to remind her of that moment when she melted down faster than butter in a microwave. Confront her with her own words, and boom, she's a walking meme. She's the perfect example of what happens when emotional manipulation collides with the cold, hard wall of accountability. Every deflection, every attempt to reframe the narrative only digs her deeper. In a perfect world, The View would take a long, hard look in the mirror and maybe consider inviting guests with differing perspectives. Maybe they'd open the door to actual debates, like adults who can hold a conversation without needing fainting couches every time someone disagrees. But let's be real. The View. Embracing intellectual honesty is about as likely as Sunny winning a Pulitzer for political courage. The odds are slimmer than a politician's promises during an election year. Instead, we're probably in for more episodes full of emotional support llamas, guided breathing exercises, and heartwarming discussions on why feelings are more important than facts. Meanwhile, Sunny will continue to claim the moral high ground, dodging the truth like it's radioactive. Greg Gutfeld, on the other hand, will keep doing his thing, cool, calm, and savage, reminding America that not only is the emperor naked, but he's also demanding a standing ovation for his invisible wardrobe. In the end, Sunny's meltdown was a gift, a front row seat to a televised reminder that hypocrisy can only be hidden for so long before it eats itself alive. You can only fake it for so long before someone points, laughs, and watches the whole thing crumble. And oh, did we laugh?